The people that benefit the most are going to be solo travelers, as well as friend groups where people already all have the Platinum card. On the flip side, the group that gets most negatively affected are going to be couples, as well as families who can't get in without paying an arm and a leg. Over the past year, US airlines have bounced back from the lulls of 2020. This return to normalcy has interestingly created a new problem. Despite technically less people traveling than in 2019, the lounges are somehow more full. This is especially true for business travelers who are flying on Mondays and Thursdays. In today's video, we're going to talk about why this is happening, how American Express is addressing this, and also how this affects you. None of this is new information. I have talked about this in the past, but oftentimes in different roundups, so a bit piecemeal. I wanted one central resource, at least for 2023. With that said though, before we dive into everything, big favor is to give this a thumbs up to help with the algorithm. That way other people can see this because not everyone watches every video, and if you are someone new here, to consider subscribing. Okay, so why is this happening? Why are lounges suddenly overcrowding when it was fine in 2019? And maybe fine isn't the best word here, but it was substantially more reasonable. Number one, for a lot of airlines, it's due to the fact that they've been extending status, either extending it or making it easy to get and maintain. For a lot of these programs, if you have status, you get entry into the lounge. In fact, a lot of these airlines have had to change up their systems to make it harder for their elites to get in. Delta Sky Clubs is the best example of this. We did a full-on video talking about pretty much everything, but they prioritized American Express Platinum cardholders instead. One good or bad thing is that for 2023, the class of elite status holders should be culled. For a lot of lounges, I do think it's going to get a lot better soon. Number two, and probably a bigger driver on American Express's end, is the success of American Express cards like the Platinum. American Express hooks big spenders by raising the annual fee. As much as some people in this community dislike the coupon book, by the numbers, it's worked pretty well. Way back in the day, you paid $450 and you got $200 in credits, so it was a $250 effective annual fee. That was pretty much the cost of entry, and that was also the iteration of the card that American Express was worried about failing. Fast forward a few years, you paid $550 and got 500 in credits, a $50 effective fee. Right now, you're paying $695 and getting upwards of $1,400 in credits. For a lot of people, they're either breaking even or even coming out ahead because they were already using these credits. A book of coupons sounds like a terrible proposition unless you use a lot of these services. American Express set about reinventing the Platinum card to make it more desirable to young urbanites rather than the middle-aged card members that long made up the bulk of its customer base. And this worked wonders. Amex said that it signed up more Platinum card members this year than ever before, with millennials and Gen Zs making up 60%. In the last 6 years, they've doubled the number of Platinum card members. Unsurprisingly, this growth and success of the Platinum card is the crux of the problem. And to be fair, you could obviously argue that in that time, maybe they've doubled the number of Centurion Lounge locations, and that's all fine and dandy. The problem being that a lot of the people that are signing up for the card are not necessarily evenly distributed. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these new signups are from LA, San Francisco, Houston, New York, and Atlanta, a lot of the airports that are dealing with this overcrowding. In effect, the Centurion Lounge experience is getting negatively affected due to the success of the Platinum card. Given all of this, American Express is in a lose-lose situation, and they have to pick the lesser of two evils. Option number one is staying the course, having people get angry, and potentially canceling the card. Option number two is limiting access and trying to keep that experience. American Express chose the latter. Starting on February 1st of 2023, Platinum and Business Platinum members are going to be charged a $50 fee for each guest or $30 for children between 2 and 17. Reminder that you, as the primary card member, still gets in for free. The one exception to this is if you spend more than $75,000 on the card in a calendar year, which qualifies you for complimentary guest access for you and up to 2 guests. Also, if you are someone that has multiple Platinum cards and multiple American Express cards, it has to be $75K on one particular card. So if you break it down, let's say $40K on one and $40K on another Platinum, that's not going to work. Note that if you have a corporate Platinum, then you're unaffected by this. Their stance with this tells us that there is a problem, but they are prioritizing business card members, and specifically corporate ones. One idea that was floated pretty aggressively by the less traveling focused community was maybe limiting the business travelers who go every week. If you think about it, it does kind of make sense because they might go 40 or 50 times per year, and that's negatively affecting your 1 or 2 visits. Okay, so who's winning here and who's losing? The people that benefit the most are going to be solo travelers and people who have friend groups where everyone already has the Platinum. The group that's losing and arguably getting screwed are going to be couples in particular, and also families who are going to have to pay an arm and a leg to get into the lounge. Also, it is a bit interesting that this is kind of a zero-sum game where the families might be losing, but the solo travelers might be winning because there's less people there. The most obvious question is what can you do or what should you do given the options if you don't want to spend $75,000 on that card. Option number one is to have them get their own platinum card. Depending on the math, this might actually be the better option compared to adding them as an authorized user. Especially if they're about to break even or come out ahead from that card, then it just makes sense. And to be fair, I would run the numbers and be very conservative with your estimates. We do have a calculator on Ask Sebi, so if you Google Ask Sebi Platinum Worth It, it should pop up. Pretty much goes through all the credits and you can input the value that you actually attribute to it. And again, I'd be pretty aggressive or conservative depending on how you look at it. So for example, for Uber, I use that pretty frequently. I literally use that today to go to dinner, so I value that pretty much like cash. On the flip side, for something like the Walmart Plus, that would lean more towards zero for me. On that note, if you do want to learn more about cards, whether they're platinum or some other card in the future, and you want to support the channel, we do have links on the website, asksebi.com, and down below in the description box. Obviously, make sure that the links are competitive, that the cards make sense, but otherwise, it is a huge way to support the channel, so thank you guys in advance. Also, if you are someone that's new to American Express, check out Card Match for that 150k platinum offer, and I'll link to a blog post down below as well. Option number two is to add them as an authorized user. For most American Express Platinum cards and variations, if you add 1, 2, or 3 authorized users, it's still going to be $175. If you add a fourth one and any subsequent ones after that, it's going to be $175 each. There is a big exception to this, and we'll talk about it with option number 3. Doing the math, if you're just adding one person, then it's $175 each. If you're doing 2 people, it's $87 each, and 3, it's $58 each. As an authorized user, you still get access to the Centurion lounges as well as Delta Sky Clubs. And in fact, also other lounge partners like Plaza and also Escape. So on the lounge side, you could argue that there's pretty much no difference. You can also get Hilton and Bonvoy Gold status, which is nice, and also access to the Fine Hotels and Resorts program. Also car rental elite status. What they don't get is the majority of the other credits that make the card worthwhile. So the Saks, the Uber, the airline incidental, the hotel credits, all that other stuff. The one exception to this is the $100 global entry or TSA PreCheck credit every 4 or 4.5 years. And I guess if you want to be mathematical about it, you could probably attribute about $25 in value per year. Main takeaway is that there still is value from car rental status and hotel status, but a lot of that value, a lot of that fee is due to lounge access, so you need to see whether that's worthwhile. If I had to have a super simple flowchart, I think if you're a family, then authorized user route probably makes more sense, especially if you can add up to 3 people anyways. If you're a couple and you have a player too, I think they should consider getting their own card. Your mileage may vary because there are a ton of variables that you know a lot better than I do. Option number 3 is going to be getting the American Express Morgan Stanley Platinum card. What you may or may not know is that the Platinum card is kind of like ice cream and there's multiple flavors. You have the normal one, which people refer to as the vanilla, you have the business, the Schwab, Goldman Sachs, and Morgan Stanley. In the past, we also had Ameriprise and Mercedes-Benz. The main draw is that each of the cards kind of have their own superpower. For the Morgan Stanley version, the superpower is that you can add 1 additional platinum card for no additional fee. The next 3 additional authorized users are under the same $175 total fee system that we talked about previously. For couples who don't want to get 2 cards, who don't want to pay $175, this is one of the best options and alternatives. The main issue is getting the card. In the past, it was super easy, and I've talked about this quite a bit for the last 2 years. Back then, all you needed to do was park $5,000 into their Access Investing account, pretty much their Wealthfront equivalent. There was a fee, but it was pretty tame. For the $5,000 I invested, that turned into about $6,500, and the fees are about $20 per year. If you're someone that's a boglehead, then that doesn't sound great, but for the purpose of credit cards, it's pretty reasonable. Put another way, would I pay $20 to add an authorized user for free? I think for most of us, we probably would. So for Mandy and I, we both have multiple platinum cards because it mathematically makes sense, and we kind of get value from the credits, and the authorized user in this case is actually my mom. Unlike us, she lives in the suburbs and doesn't use a lot of these services, so it doesn't make sense. At the same time, she still travels and she likes going to Delta Sky Clubs and Centurion lounges and Plaza Premium lounges. Okay, so back in the day, it was pretty easy to get. How do I get it now? You still can get it, but there's just a lot of hoops to jump through. I'll do a deeper dive in the future if you guys are interested, but right now at least, you'd want to have $25,000 and park it into their account. You want to get the preferred savings account, which is actually a brokerage account for them, move in $25,000, and you can apply for the Morgan Stanley card then. And to be fair, the $25,000 is still earning interest, and as of right now, it's about 3 to 4%. If you're someone that's chasing yield, then maybe there are better options out there, but it's not bad. For a lot of people, they don't want to deal with this, so they'll either pony up the $175 or just sign up for a new card. If you don't want to deal with American Express's nonsense, option number 4 is considering other lounge memberships, or maybe not even going to a lounge at all. If you're someone that thinks the Centurion Lounge is still going to be a mess even after this change, then it might make sense to look at other programs. The most obvious ones are going to be Alaska, United, as well as American. For example, United Club membership starts at $650. If you are going down this route, I'd also consider the other cards that get you these benefits for a cheaper price. So for example, if the Chase United Club card, you're getting the same benefit pretty much for a $525 annual fee. So $525 versus $650, I'll happily pay less. And also with the $525, you get other perks. First and second checked bags are free, you have multipliers from the card, and you also get potentially priority check-in depending on the airport that you're based out of. Another example is the Citi American Executive card, which is an S-tier card, given that you can get a lot of people lounge access for a pretty reasonable price. Depending on how many times you split it, almost as low as $50. So funny enough, even if you are going to other lounge networks, it still makes sense to consider credit cards because it's kind of the more optimal move. Also, if you are a business owner and you're looking for a write-off, the Chase United Club business card might be a pretty good pick. I did an entire video talking about how you can think about this on the other channel, Ask Sebi Business. So maybe go check that out after this one. Again, if you do want to learn about cards, we do have links on the website, asksebi.com, and down below in the description box. If you made it to this point in the video, then leave a coffee emoji in the comments down below, because that's why I go to the lounge. Also probably why I talk very fast for a lot of videos, because I'm very caffeinated. Coffee emoji down below and I'll try to heart it and also respond to it. My question for you, what are your thoughts on this whole change? Are you happy about it or are you disappointed? Also, if you are someone that's affected, how are you reacting to this? Are you adding an authorized user, having them sign up for a card, or maybe voting with your feet? Let me know and everyone else know in the comments down below. Big favor, give this a thumbs up, consider subscribing, but otherwise, hope you guys liked it. See you guys next time.